Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. And in today's video I'm going to be teaching you how to merch. Now you might be asking, what is merching? Merching's pretty similar to flipping. You buy items for low, you sell them for high, but merching takes a lot longer. It's holding on to the item until the price rises and being patient with it, and then you sell it for high. I'm going to show you 3 ways to merch. The first way is experimental. The second way is knowledgeable, and the third way is estimated. This probably doesn't make sense now, but it will make sense in the video, so let's just get straight into it. Okay, so number 1 on the list is experimental. By experimental, I mean you're just going to test out some items. So if you go on old school RuneScape website and then you go on the Grand Exchange tab, there is a tab that's called Price Falls. On this tab, you're just going to look at items that have fallen in price over the past week. I'd recommend not using the items that are 1 to 2 GP, but you want to look for an item that you can afford so that you can buy lots of. And you also want to look at an item that is quite stable. So by that I mean not a new item or not an item that's been heavily botted recently. So for example, soft clay. This item is normally botted, and as you can see the prices rose recently and then it dropped. The item has rose recently because of 2 things. The first thing is that a few months ago logging restrictions were introduced because Jagex was getting a few cyber attacks. That would have stopped the bots from collecting the clay, and also Jagex introduced a restriction on new accounts which would have also prevented bots from collecting the soft clay. So that's why you can see this sharp rise in price and then it goes back down because all the bots are back in action basically. So let's move on to a different item. There are also some items like Carol's leather skirt. This is kind of what you want to see on the graph. You want to see the item rising in price and then falling in price, rising in price, falling in price. And what we're doing is basically buying it whilst it's falling, and then we're going to sell it as it's rising to get the most profit. Another interesting one is ornate maul handle. Recently the new bounty hunter update was released. So as you can see the price rose and then it shot back down. This was due to anticipating the release, so people bought a lot of maul handles, so that's why the price rose. And as it was released, people sold the maul handles and they found out you could get more handles through Bounty Hunter, so that's why the prices dropped down. So that might be a good one to do. So looking at Jug of Water, what we can see on here is the price has rose due to bots and the restrictions I mentioned earlier, and then it's dropped back down again, but it also rose again. So this is perfect. This is what you want to see on the graph, if possible. A zigzag line basically going up and down and up and down. And also you can see how many are traded per day, and obviously there's millions traded per day, so that's also a good sign that this might work. So I'm just going to put an offer in for jugs of water, and the price we want to buy them for is a lot lower than what they're at. We're wanting to catch the down journey. So if you look at the graph, they go for about, on average, about 20 GP each. So what we want to put our offer in for is about 20 GP. And we want to try and catch this down wave or down trend on the item. So I'm just going to put an offer in for 100,000 jugs of water. Hopefully they buy, and if not, then there's no loss and no money made. Another one I'm going to do, which I think is quite interesting, is the ornate maul handle, because as you can see the price is going down. It's at about 400k and the lowest it's been is about 400k, so this is probably a good time to buy because the price is probably going to rise back up to about 400 or 500k. So I'm just going to put an offer in for as many maul handles as I can buy. Again, with anything, if you find the items are buying too quickly, like I've had this offer in for about 10 minutes and I've already bought 7, then you want to reduce the price that you're buying it for, because you want to buy these items when they're at their lowest. Obviously they're not at their lowest now because people are selling them at this price, so I want to buy them for a little bit lower. So I'm going to put an offer in for about 350k. So that is experimental. That's method 1. This is probably the most funnest way and probably the easiest way to do it. You're basically just looking for items that are currently low or like on a downward spiral, and you're going to buy as many of those as you can for a very cheap price, and if they do buy, then sell them for more than what you bought them for, obviously, but also look at the graph as to what price they normally sell at and sell within that region. So the next method is knowledgeable. It's basically if you find yourself saying, ooh, that item's cheap, or something equivalent to that, then you might want to try this method out. It's basically knowing an item's price range and buying when you know it's cheap, and then selling it when you know it's high. So for example, cosmic runes, I know their price range is about 120 to about 170, so I've put an offer in when they're pretty close to 120 and they've started buying. With merching, I'd recommend making alternate accounts. These alternate accounts will help you to buy GE limits quickly. You want to do this because you want to buy the items as quickly as possible and as many as you can before the price rises back up. But as I mentioned before, there are some restrictions on new accounts, so make sure you get past those restrictions before you start buying too many items on that account. So because my cosmic runes have started buying, I'm just going to give my alternate accounts some money, and I will put the same offer in on those accounts, and hopefully I can buy some more. Well, buy as many as possible, really. So, as you can see, I managed to buy about 130,000 cosmic runes, and I did manage to sell them pretty quickly for 145 GP each. The initial price I bought them for was 123 GP each, so that's a pretty good margin. This only took a couple of days, but I did manage to make about 2.7 mil. Obviously, if you do it for longer, or if you've got more accounts, then you can make more profit, and it's basically the old saying, the more you buy, the more you make. This is the second method. This one's a little bit harder because you've got to understand items' price ranges, but the best ones to go for are, pretty solid items like runes and ores and stuff like that, stuff that's in the game and always has been in the game, so the price doesn't change that much. Okay, so the final method is estimated. This method is using game updates to make money. So basically, you're predicting what the price is going to be. This is definitely the hardest method, but if you do it correctly, then you can make a lot of money. So, as I mentioned, recently, a new Bounty Hunter update came out, and basically, Jagex realized that the Blighted Potions were too cheap. When I bought these Blighted Potions, they were going for about 3k each. So the new update came out and the Blighted Potions were a bit more expensive and the prices slowly began to rise. I got pretty lucky with this one. I did actually manage to buy them when they were at their cheapest, and I managed to sell quite a few when they were almost at their most expensive, about 6k each. They're currently about 5.5k, so that was a pretty lucky merch. The next one I'm going to show you an example of is the Dark Maya update. Now, Dark Maya update was mentioned in March, and basically because the update involved a lot of blood, then people started to stockpile blood runes. And if you just look at the graph around that time, pretty much exactly when the update was mentioned, blood runes price started to rise, and it rose to probably the highest it's ever been, of about 400 GP each. And then the final example I'm going to show you is basically a real world example. When most of the countries in the world went into lockdown, a lot more people started playing in RuneScape. Therefore, a lot more people start to play free-to-play, and that means a lot more people start to PK in free-to-play. So, in turn, that meant a lot more people will start to buy swordfish in the game, and the price of swordfish has rose since the lockdown began, basically. So this is probably the hardest method, but it's the most successful because you're basically predicting when the price is going to rise. So keep your eye out on updates. RuneScape is good because you get to know when updates are happening and what is happening. So if you do your research, then you can almost predict what is going to happen to the market. This is by far the hardest method, but if you can get it down, then you will be a Grand Exchange god. So that's it for the merchant video. Just a little summary for you all. Make a few alternate accounts if you're going to start doing this. You can only really do this if you've got at least 10 to 20 mil or more sitting in the bank and you don't actually need it. This is not a money maker for new players. It's for players that have got a lot of money already and they want to just try some stuff out. As always, don't merch new items. 9 times out of 10 they will drop in price. It's very rare that a brand new item will rise in price. With this method, you've got to be patient. You could be waiting a couple of weeks for it to sell for the price that you want. Don't sell it quickly. The more patient you are, usually the better. If the item doesn't buy within a couple of days, then just forget about it. You've probably missed the rise of the item. And also, I just want to repeat that this is not a valid money maker. It's just basically something for fun that could possibly make you money. in the long run. If you don't know already, I'm currently streaming my Dryathalon Series, and it's basically if I get the pet on a pet grind, then I do a big old drop party with all the loot. I'm making the drop parties free to play as well, so everyone can join in. So if you've got time, or if you ever see me online, then drop by and say hello, and I'll see you guys in the next one.